This presentation is on Punch magazine in the 1850s and 1860s and how it related to the Civil War. This was Punch magazine's response to President Polk's election in 1844. They wrote, "How beautiful are the softening tints of iniquity. Mr. Polk is a slaveholder, but not a rich slaveholder. He only dabbles a little in human blood and bones. He's not a wholesale dealer in God's image. He turns a cent or so where other men turn a dollar, and therefore may be looked upon, and indulgence claimed for him accordingly, as a sort of amateur human flesh merchant, not a regular trader. True it is that Mr. Polk has slaves, but not possibly he may avail himself of the notorious excuse of the frail lady, they are very little ones." This was published in January of 1845, shortly before Polk was inaugurated as president. This is how Punch magazine responded to the formation of the Confederacy in 1861. The Southern secessionists must be admitted to be blessed with at least the philosophical virtue of self-knowledge. They termed their new league the Confederate States of America. Thus they call themselves by what they doubtless feel to be their right name. They are Confederates in the crime of upholding slavery. A correct estimate of their moral position is manifest in that distinctive denomination of theirs, Confederate States. This title is a beautiful antithesis to that of the United States of America. The more doggedly Confederate slave mongers combined, the more firmly good Republicans should unite, and that was written in March 9th of 1861. After the Battle of Fort Sumter in 1861, which kicked off the Civil War, there was a rapid shift in the tone from Punch magazine. The magazine then adopted a more middle-of-the-road stance resembling that of Great Britain during the American Civil War. And here is a poem that was published in Punch magazine in May of 1861 that kind of supports the idea of not, supporting one side specifically and kind of criticizing both when they believe they deserve it. Punch then began to publish a lot of anti-Union sentiment. By controlling the seaports, Northern forces were able to stifle the trade of the Confederacy's most precious item, which was cotton. This caused massive economic downturns in Britain and other European nations, and Punch condemned the Union for this because they thought it was hurting the U.S. economy and the world economy. Here are some of the anti-Union statements that were published in Punch magazine later in the year in 1861. The first one was an appeal to the North. "If your lot should be defeat, which is no unlikely fate, then the sooner you are beat, all the better. Conquered late, for the expense of troops and shipping, all that you can hope to get would be the eventual whipping and the overlasting debt." And another one here is King Khan's remonstrance, "Negro melody, poor old Ned." Punch also then began to publish some anti-Abraham Lincoln propaganda. This right here is a political cartoon showing Abraham Lincoln in a negative light with the Russian Tsar Nicholas. The title of it is called Extremes Meet, essentially painting Lincoln as an extremist. Lincoln was often portrayed as a focus of ridicule in Punch magazine at the time, and he was often shown as a liar, an opportunist, and a total failure in office. Even the Emancipation Proclamation was treated as a total ruse, as this quote shows here. Punch magazine then again changed its tune after Lincoln was assassinated, and they portrayed him in a very sympathetic light in their political cartoons and their writing. Punch magazine later admitted to a series of mistakes when they were covering Lincoln and the way that they portrayed him. As you can see here, Tom Taylor harshly criticized them for how they portrayed Lincoln. So by this point, Punch magazine had gone back and forth on Lincoln, on the Confederacy, on the Union, and they'd lost a lot of credibility because of it. Punch magazine responded to this, essentially admitting that they made mistakes in the way in which they covered Lincoln, and that they don't want this to be the only way in which they were judged solely based on the Civil War. These are our sources. I hope you enjoyed our presentation.